has more from Washington.
All right, I'd like to bring in now J. Michael Waller. He is the Senior Analyst for Strategy at the Center for Security Policy and another eyewitness to the events that transpired here in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. We've been talking to a lot of eyewitnesses this week and trying to get as many perspectives as possible. Michael, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Hey, it's good to be with you, Jack.
Now, walk me through, and I understand that you have an extensive report up on your website today, really talking about what you saw and the different features and maybe even factions within the crowd that was there.
Sure. Well, first of all, just to give an idea, I was trained as a left-wing protester back when I was in high school. And so I know what to look for, and I know how the hardcore left operates from back then, and they haven't really changed much. They've just advanced their technology. And then have been around protests for much of the past 40 years in Washington, D.C. So in looking around at who was doing what there, I was expecting an Antifa disruption. But over the course of the 4 hours or 4.5 hours between leaving the Ellipse and walking down Constitution Avenue to the side of the Capitol building that faces the rest of the city, I noticed 4 different groups of cells or different cadre in there. So the first group was the rowdy guys in the MAGA gear. The second group was the plainclothes people who were trying to funnel people into that narrow area. And it turns out that's the area where they broke through the crypt level of the Capitol on the western side to break in right under the rotunda. And then the third group were people we saw during the march, and they looked like the Antifa-type lefties. They didn't fit in. They were wearing, indeed, MAGA hats and Trump hats backwards, but they weren't making eye contact. They didn't fit in. They weren't making conversation with people. And so I was watching them because I thought they'd be trouble. Turns out I didn't see them, at least from where I was, involved in any trouble. But the fourth group was very different from all of them. These were uniformed, younger athletic men in camouflage, and many of them wearing helmets with GoPro cameras and Punisher skull patches. And I'd seen them in groups of 2 or 3 in the march from the Ellipse to the Capitol, but didn't pay much attention to them. But by this time, they came down in a column, about 30 or 40 of them, and they went within 2 feet of me. And one of the lead ones announced, "We're going to take the Capitol." I thought, right, there's too much security for that. Even if we don't see it, there's no way you're getting in. But they came through. They had a military style of discipline. It looked like some of them had the demeanor of some guys who'd served in combat, or at least had really good military training. And they were neat, they were tidy, they were orderly, but they were guys on a mission.
Now let me ask then, from what you saw, did this seem like it was something where there was a spontaneous outburst of anger and rage that had been incited by something the president said, which is sort of one narrative that's out there, or was this a pre-planned operation?
To get into the Capitol, I've been in and out of it for years since I was a staffer in the House and Senate. Into those levels of the Capitol, this was built 200 years ago. This is huge limestone columns and blocks that are holding up that whole complex, and there's small passageways throughout there. You really have to know your way around to navigate those passageways to get to the Speaker's office or to get up to the entry to the House chamber and to these other places. You can't just wander in as part of an angry group. Somebody had mapped this out in advance. It was all organized. And you just don't buy uniforms and helmets to go into a place just because the president riled you up 40 minutes earlier. This was all pre-planned way before January 6th.
J. Michael Waller for the Center for Security Policy. Thank you so much for coming on, joining us again, One American News.
We'll see you, Jack.